Well, hey everyone. A few weeks ago, you saw me gush in a review of a book called In the Orchard. I'm going to try to first show you here. I have my screen blurred, so it's a little bit hard to show you, but yeah, wow, that is problematic. But this beautiful book called In the Orchard. And then you listened to me, if you tuned in to the Generations podcast, I did my October book wrap up and I gushed some more. And so I'm absolutely thrilled today to welcome the author, Eliza Minot. Her name is pronounced, and I screwed that up on the podcast. It's not Minot, it's Minot. So welcome, Eliza.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
We have been chatting for like 15 minutes off before we started recording, and we have a lot to talk about this book. So I want to open by having you give us in your own words what do they call it, the elevator pitch, whatever. Like if you were going to tell somebody I wrote a book and they said, what's it about?
Okay. It's still, after all these months, it's still hard for me to kind of encapsulate it, but it is about, really, it's about being alive and, kind of the wonder and weirdness of living. But we're seeing this through the lens of a mother who has a young mom who's just given birth to her fourth baby. We meet her in the middle of the night. Don't worry, this won't be that long. It sounds like I'm going from beginning
No,
to
you make it
very
as
long.
long as you want.
We meet her in the middle of the night, nursing her fourth baby, who's about 2 weeks old. And there are three other children sleeping. But she wakes up, she's nursing, she's thinking about her past, she's thinking about her girlhood, she's thinking about money issues that make her very anxious. She's thinking about meeting her husband, or, she's just thinking about the past, mostly about other women and her family and her dead mom who died when she was 5 years old. So, kind of a lot of woven stuff about a woman's life, a young woman's life, who's also in the midst of being tired, being hormonal, being overwhelmed. Even though this is her fourth, it's still, there's nothing. I mean, I'm sure there are other things somewhat like it, like death or falling in love, maybe, at least in my experience. Not that I've ever died, but having someone die is sort of the only thing in my own experience. I also had four kids. That was like giving birth. It just was mind-blowing. So she's in the midst of all of that. So that's sort of a background, sort of the wonder and danger of it all. Then basically halfway through, they all wake up and leave the house and go to an orchard as a little family to go pick apples. And when she's there, she meets some interesting characters and some kind of weird things happen.
That's really well. That's diplomatically played until we get to. So yes, I mean you did a really good job describing your own book. But I was going to say, as someone, as a reader, as someone, I had multiple young children at once too. I didn't have four, I had three under the age of four. So like, four,
Same,
two, and new, as
yeah.
we called it. And
one is the big difference, I feel like, right? It
what's
was like,
that?
just having the first one, and then it's not that different, really, even though
Well,
it seems like, what?
You were able to, I said, I don't know that I have ever read, I don't think I have read a book that encapsulated the like swell and sway of emotion that happens to women. Doesn't matter whether I did have C-section. So like, I was really like, it just, the way you just described it so well. And what I have to wonder is like, is any of this auto fiction? What they're calling auto fiction, like that you're pulling from your.
Ooh, I mean, I wish almost that I could like give a clear percentage or something. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? To make it
Oh
very
yeah, no,
clear. It's so, did any of it actually happen? No, but yes, it's like, yes, the whole vibe of it happened in a way. Am
yeah,
I Maisie Moore, who is the young mom, who's the main, she's not quite first person narrator, but it's really close. So you feel
yeah.
like you're right with her.
Oh, I felt that way.
Yeah. So I'm not her, but
Mhm.
anything I write is definitely aspects of my own life and my experience, because that's what I'm
That's
working
right,
with.
right, what you
And
know.
yeah, so um, if I were to write a memoir about my own raising my kids, or, a personal essay, there certainly would be like a Venn diagram where it
Right.
overlaps, where I have common feelings, but I am not her. Do I picture my own house when I was writing the book? Maybe at moments, but it's like
Okay.
when I'm teaching creative writing, it's like you begin with a little something, whether it's true or not, it's true in you. And the more I describe it anyway, and the more specific I get, it's almost the more, not further away from me, but the more distinct and kind of universal and not me it becomes. Does that make
No, that
sense?
makes, oh, it does make sense. It does make sense. So,
So, yeah, like, are there certain things, like probably one of my kids, I think, yes, once or twice someone got stung at an apple orchard. That kind of happens, is
right.
not a big deal, but those little, did we go to an apple orchard as a little family? Yes, we did do that.
We did too.
Did I bring a 2-week-old to the apple orchard? No, I would never have
I
done that,
know. Did we
like,
all question that? We did.
yeah. Did I maybe think, would I have judged a mom if they had done that? No, I understand, whatever,
Yeah.
you
Oh,
were
yeah.
doing things
Well,
when
you
you're
have,
not in
when you
your right
have
mind.
other, you are a different mother every time you have another child. And when
For
you
sure.
just have one, but when you have the others, they have needs too, and you want to be with them and they want you and mommy come with us.
Yeah,
And then you
yeah.
think, of course, I mean, my gosh, the way I was so much more relaxed. We were so much more relaxed with the second and the third. And
Yes.
indefinitely, I would definitely have had a fourth as well. So it's like, nope.
Yeah.
But I just, to the point where I think back and I was like, wow, we let a lot, but we were much more hovering
Totally. It
over the
definitely,
first.
I definitely, I feel the same way. However, there's something about like the things that are high stakes, like maybe going to an orchard with a newborn who's brand new.
Yeah.
Well, that's not their best example. I feel like we were more careful about the things that were more dangerous, that as a new parent, I was more
Okay.
preoccupied with, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The diapers, or I
Yep.
don't know, like not thinking about the
It's such
bigger
an
picture.
insular experience. And
Totally.
this is what you were able to capture, that when you are, um, and as soon as your children go to school and begin that, it becomes less insular and they become ambassadors and you're meeting people and you think you might get your life back. But when you are, I was saying on the podcast, I said, you're going from nursing to changing. The other ones need to be fed. They're possibly still in diapers too. And then you're thinking, how the heck am I going to get to how am I going to get to the store? And I
Yeah.
mean, you brought that all. And as our oldest daughter is about to have a baby in a couple of weeks. So I see this happening. I mean, wait till you see it happening in your child. You want to talk
I That
about
must be crazy. Yeah,
a
that's so
roller
exciting.
coaster. It is
Yeah.
exciting. It is exciting, but it's out of body because this just happened in my,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
you describe a scene, and I couldn't find it when I was going back through here because the first copy I had was an audio copy, which, by the way, the audiobook was done to perfection. Rebecca
Yeah.
Lerman.
I loved that. I mean, I don't think I've listened to my other, but she was great. And it was
I
really,
said
really
that.
interesting to listen to it while I was walking my dogs. I was in the wood, like just to kind of get reacquainted with my own book, frankly.
What a
To
nice
hear,
way.
like, yeah, it was really,
Yeah.
really was cool.
I mean, I'm a big audio. I wouldn't get through the number of books that I do if I didn't, but I'm one of those people. It's like, tell me a story. I love, same thing, walking the dogs, I do a lot of driving, and um, it doesn't always work, but she was able to tap into, this is such an emotional read. And she did it perfectly. You felt like you knew Maisie, and that's a tribute to your writing and her delivery of your writing. They meshed, is my
Thank
point.
you. Yeah.
Um,
No, she was great.
but like there was a scene, again, and I couldn't find it, where Maisie is in the hospital, and I can't remember what baby if it's with the with Esme, but um, where the nurse opens the door and like brings the baby in, and I so vividly remember that moment with my oldest, with Olivia. Like, you wake up from the fog and all of a sudden you have that like moment where you're like, somebody needs me. I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not alone, not that I ever felt alone, but like the world changes at
It,
that moment.
yeah.
And nobody's ever, I've never read anything like it before, but I almost stopped. I literally stopped and like I welled up so many times reading this, listening to
Oh,
this,
that's
because
very touching to me.
it's just so I plan to give this copy to a friend of mine who we raised our children together. And like I said, my relationship with her, it's so intertwined with, it was like she had a baby, I had a baby, we just kept having babies. I'm like, I have to give this to Sally. I have to, like, so you like, it's one of those books, like when it finds the right reader, it's going to be everything. So
Thank you. That really
um
means a lot,
so I would
especially
say,
coming from you, a mom of three who is looking back at it like me, you
yeah,
know?
it hit me. I know they say your books meet you at the right time, and this one definitely did. So, all right. Well, so I also, it's interesting because I don't know if you've noticed, but motherhood is having a literary moment right now.
I have noticed, and a lot of the books I can't wait to look at and read, but yeah.
So I'm doing a 2023 wrap up for the podcast with another book account who sometimes we do stuff together. And so we were saying like How to Love Your Daughter by Gila Bloom, In the Orchard, Tom Lake, Ann Patchett, My Work, Olga Ravin, Loved and
Yes,
Missed, Susie Boyd, The Long Form, Kate Briggs, which I have not read yet, but
I
can't,
haven't read that either.
that I think that one's gonna, I have a feeling it's gonna be really good. But I wonder, I guess it's not really a question so much, I wonder why.
I have wondered that too, and I imagine it's like the feeling I was having. Um, I initially set out to write when I was started this book, it was a book about it was going to be a book about the housing crisis and a young family, sort of two young families like siblings.
Yep.
And I hadn't gotten very far, maybe sort of 80, 85 pages when I sold it to my editor. But that was the pitch, and that was what it was going to be. It was going to be called American Standard. It was going to be kind of
Wow.
not a saga, but like, family, money, like that kind of stuff. And yes, this sort of still has the background financial anxiety in the background, the In the Orchard does, but I found myself um particularly when I was writing about the newborn, kind of like, why don't books, why don't I read this? Like you were saying,
Mhm.
why isn't this more? And I just kind of like, went there. I mean, I just kept writing that and sort of thinking, yeah, I also tend to write to sort of try to remember, not as we were just like my own life necessarily. Like I'm not keeping a baby book for my children, but it's like
Right.
to remember the feelings of those
Hmm.
swelling feelings or those just that way of being alive for so long.
Joan Didion said something like that,
Yeah.
let's
So
just like get in
it's
touch with those.
right. It's like, and also before they're gone, I even already felt like I don't even remember, my kids were not little anymore, but they weren't big either. But it sort of felt like it's receding into the background, that little orchard baby time.
It does.
Yeah. And I wanted to get that. And I mean, to, hold on to it somehow and to sort of keep that part of life, which is sort of one of the reasons I find myself writing. So the more I wrote, the more was thinking I wished I had read a book like this, or I want to read a book like this. Maybe I wouldn't have been dying to read it when I was 25 years old without kid, but still I wanted to contribute as like a serious literary, endeavor, that this is not all about, harried moms and pacifiers and diaper, you know what I mean? Like sort of the
Yeah.
belittling and almost vilifyingness that people do for moms, even moms on moms. I mean,
Well,
I'm a big fan of moms,
I'm
but
so glad you
you
said
know,
that, because that was another section where and I think I said this in my review, never did I compare myself more to friends and other mothers than when my children were tiny. I said you would even friends that you knew weren't doing it, but oh gosh, she's so, when she nurses it looks effortless, or oh my gosh, she always has fresh baked goods. I'm trying, just you're trying to scramble and do all the things, and you're pulled in so many directions. And there is a section in here when people are handing out advice, it's like a list of and I felt like that you touched on that it's a really it's a psychological it's mind blowing.
Totally. Even
And
to the extent where it's like, this is not interesting for art, or, like whatever, moms, who
yeah,
cares? It's self-indulgent, it's navel gazing, like just the sort of writing off of the efforts, or not even the efforts, the like the
right.
wildness that, like you were just talking about, the sort of mind altering craziness that men can't write about,
No,
honestly. I
no,
don't mean they can't write about it honestly, but they haven't
they can't write about
they
it.
don't, they
Yeah.
can't write
No,
about it.
no.
So that too, I felt like, not like pat myself on the back, but it was more, I just wanted to contribute to this world, into art and
Yep,
respectability in art,
yep.
before I move on to write another book.
Oh, I mean,
So
I love, like I said, I love that motherhood is because there's so many times that I say, I wish I could have found a book like this. Sometimes I felt so alone. Was I the only one thinking these
yeah,
things?
yeah,
And I
yeah,
said, there are times when, and you describe again this so beautifully, when you're so caught up and in love with with the baby, and you're nursing the baby, and it's a swell of emotions that nothing is ever going to compare with. It's indescribable, except that you did it really well. And the next moment, you have somebody, pulling on you, and something has happened, you're thrown out of it, and you might have toddlers fighting, and you're
yeah,
angry, and you feel,
yeah,
I remember being angry at myself for being angry. Something's wrong with me. Why am I mad?
yeah.
And it's so human, but we're not, moms don't have, I don't know, I feel like mothers don't talk about it. You have playgroup, did go to playgroup, and
Right,
everybody talks about, like, oh, those new Pampers are great, and or this breast pump is excellent.
right, all the other stuff. It's like,
But
as you
like,
said, it's so insular. It's almost like
yeah,
that insularity is so intimate, even
yeah,
with a partner who's doing it with you,
yeah.
but it's still, it's so
No, and you don't, they come
strangely
home and you're
intimate.
like, here,
Yeah,
please, I haven't showered today. Remember that? Like,
yes,
take
yeah,
them, I need to go take a shower.
yeah.
It's but well, so okay, we, everybody who's listening, we are going to move along and talk about the ending of the book, as Eliza was saying, that I don't know at what section in the book they go to the orchard, but is it like
It's, it literally, it's like right at halfway.
halfway? Okay.
Yeah.
So and again, I have to say, perfect length book. I talk a lot when I do reviews about book bloat, and I love a long book, but not every book needs to be 600 pages or a tome. And there's a lot of them out there. And this, like, tied up, it was a really good length, like the sweet
Oh,
spot
thank you.
under 300. So at about halfway, this family goes on an outing, the four children, the two parents, to an apple orchard. And there is kind of what I considered a very surprise ending to this. And we're going to talk about it. So, spoiler alert, if you don't want to know, you want to finish it, come back and watch this later, because we're about to go there. Okay. So, I'll first say, when I posted my review and I said, I need to talk to somebody about this ending, and I got a DM from one of my favorite authors, Alice Elliott Dark. You all remember she wrote Fellowship Point, and she came on with me, gosh, the summer after it was out. And I just have I mean, Alice is great. Well, turns out Alice and Eliza know one another, publishing, but she was your creative writing teacher at
She is. I went and got my master's when I was 45, after I'd written two books. So it was
Okay.
kind of like a odd but I had a fellowship. I was teaching undergrad, so it was free. I was going to school and being paid to go. It was awesome. I would have done it for the
Wow.
rest of my life if I
The
could have. Yeah,
dream.
it was a dream. And while I was there, Alice was my professor.
When I spoke with her and she was talking about one of the classes that she teaches on Ferrante, I said, you have no idea what I would give to be in your class on
Yeah.
Ferrante and do the
No, she
Neapolitan
was great.
book.
That class I did not have, and she wasn't teaching that when I was there, but that would have been great.
Yeah,
I love her. Yeah.
she's so, I think I used the word with her, authentic.
Yes.
She's just, and she's always one of these people who still checks in, and we talk about animals and stuff. So anyway, she said, I'll talk about the ending, and talked about you. But we both had, so I guess I kind of need to back up that. So they're apple picking. They have 4 children under the age of 10. Is it 10?
Yeah, even like 9, maybe.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
8 is
Right.
yeah.
And newborn baby, and mom, I think it's kind of important to the story that the mom had a C-section. So, if you've had a section, like it's, no birth is any more traumatic than the other. They're all pretty traumatic, but, like your scar, you're supposed to you're supposed to take it easy and not be
Yeah.
straining that
Even a
incision.
2-week-old baby is maybe, I mean, I get it, they're a young, active family and the
Yep.
kids want the mom to go, but I
Right.
don't think 2 weeks you usually aren't leaving your house.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not really. You're not supposed to be
I mean, you
driving. It's
go
hard.
around the block or,
Right. It's
you
hard to
can
be in a
like,
car. You have a pillow on your incision, or back in the day when that's what they were telling you to do, and all of that. So they're walking through the orchard and they're doing all the things and the apple picking, and there's a hay ride involved. And as I looked back on it, as I looked back, and I know I know exactly where I was as I was listening to this, as stuff started to unfold. And I now remember hearing, it was her husband's name, Neil, was the
mhm,
husband's Neil.
mhm.
He says, are you okay? Like, I don't remember, like something like, you look
Yeah.
pale. Are you feeling okay? And I thought, well, yeah, you're not feeling okay when you're 2 weeks postpartum and you're swollen and you're nursing and you feel terrible. But
Yeah.
you're
And
trying,
bleeding.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're bleeding and you're trying to do all the things. But so I remembered now, okay, he asks her a couple times if she's feeling okay. And then they go on a hayride, or she gets on a
Yeah.
hayride.
Well, they all go, like Neil with the 3 kids walks into the orchard, and initially he brings the baby too. She says, "I wanna take the hayride," because she doesn't wanna walk. But
Right.
then the baby starts crying, so then she takes the baby, changes it, has a little interaction with a horse and, that kind of stuff. But yeah, so she and the baby get on the hayride alone, and they're gonna
Right.
meet them
And
in the
then she has a very interesting interaction with an older woman, who at first I'm like, oh, this woman is me. I'm thinking, like, this is me. I see babies in the grocery store and mom's stressed. And I'm like, don't be stressed. I wish I had a
Yeah,
baby to grocery shop with still. But then the conversation gets weird. The conversation gets strange. And the woman, so as the text goes, and stop me if I'm wrong, because I do read a lot and my memory's not nearly 100%, but I felt like we're to believe that the woman has some dementia or something, that, this woman is, at first she's saying, oh, I remember, when my children were young. And then she talks about that one of her babies died by choking on a grape.
yep,
And Maisie is, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And then the conversation kind of digresses and gets stranger and stranger, until the point when the hayride ends, and like but the woman's family, the older woman's family, is
right, they find
waiting
her.
waiting for her, and they're like, mom, there you are you okay? And then
Yeah,
we start to have this. So what I'm trying to say is, as I got to the end, so we have these, I started to wonder, did that happen? Was that
right,
woman really there? Or was she starting to black out? Like, because on page 235, I did reread this copy. Oh, there you can see that. There you can see it. Yesterday, as
Yeah.
I'm writing out these notes, I reread it and I get to page 235, and Maisie says, most people die out of the blue. So I think, was that so at the end? So Alice and I both felt that at the end, Maisie dies. She mentions feeling blood. So we're thinking she's possibly hemorrhaging. Maisie also lost her mother as a 5-year-old, I think.
Yep.
So we're thinking, was that foreshadowing that maybe this was going to happen to her? But Alice was like, okay, you think what I think. I think she died, because all of a sudden we have Neil saying, like, she lies down in water. It's like she has a moment, and we hear
Yeah.
Neil saying, I think I think you might be bleeding a lot. And
Yeah.
then it's like fade to black. Um,
Right.
and I'm literally making beds, because last weekend was my oldest daughter's baby shower, and we had all sorts of family coming into town, and I'm making up guest rooms and stuff. And I'm listening to this, and I stop and I rewind it and I read it again, and I'm thinking, what? So, but I know this makes you happy, right? But Alice said this is not the way what you intended or what you thought happened. So I guess so
No,
here we are asking, is there
I
an answer, or is it open to interpretation?
my intention was definitely the open to interpretation. So I didn't have an intention if Alice thought oh, she's fine, she's going to be fine. I definitely, the bottom line is moms die of bleeding or of postpartum, like not only that, they die, at any time. But particularly after giving birth, it's, in the first year of life, just like this fall, or no, maybe it was in the spring, there was a New York Times story on like the most dangerous year of a mother's birth
Yep.
is that first year.
Yep.
And I definitely on most occasions think that Maisie is going to be okay. Like basically Neil sees she's in trouble and they can get her out of there. She can get to the whatever, like something will happen.
Right.
But I don't care what a
Right.
reader thinks, because
Right.
it's the same. I mean, of course, it's different if she dies or doesn't,
Right.
but all of the sort of themes of the book seemed to come together in this wishy-washiness of
That's
the
crazy.
possibilities of what can happen. And also as a mother, the sort of slippage of
Right.
self, of body, of what emotions are ours and not our mothering, like it's such a weird, I don't want to say this, the swear, the mind F that
Yeah, no,
that
it
it
was one of
really,
those.
it's
It was so,
being a young mom is like, I think.
oh,
Not like dying, because I've never died, but you know what I mean? It's like
oh,
it just did
I,
seem like it seemed not, it didn't seem hard to go there.
no, but it is so unexpected, and which is great. I mean, it's like, it's one of those things where it happens, you gasp, you look back, you realize this is why you reread. You realize there were crumbs along the way. And then when I found that line, the line that says most people die out of the blue,
Yeah, see, I don't even know where that, I wrote down 235 because
page
I'll go look at that,
235.
but it's okay.
Yep. Yep. I have it.
I mean,
Yep. I
I
have it
remember it vaguely. I
post
wonder
it.
if that's
Yeah. Post
true.
it noted. And she talks about feeling her, incision pulling, which if
Mm,
you've had a C-section, yeah, she thinks about how some people, like Maisie's own mother, know they are dying, but then most
yes.
people die out of the blue every day. Most of the thousands of people who die are not expecting it.
Yes. I do remember writing that. But like even when she's in the shower, she has a head I mean, all of the things are things that happen to people
Yep.
anyway. But
Yep.
when she's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't go, maybe I should
Yep.
rest.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, and I know there are so many books. I mean, you can cite them, all day long, that have open endings, and I know a lot of people don't like that. I
Yeah.
think I just love books that provoke conversation. This would make a great book club book, people out there. If you are
Oh,
looking for just a book that it has so many elements for conversation and that so many people can find a thread, that to something to grab onto. And the writing is beautiful, meditative. It's
you, Deb.
beautiful. It's
Thank you
beautiful.
so
No,
much.
well, I said I like to connect with authors when I am likely to tag an author in a review that I'm thinking, I hope, and not they don't all do this. They don't all reach back. Not everybody wants to say thank you for the review, and that's fine. But like, it's always a door. I'm like literally leaving the door ajar for you to connect and then me to say, I do author interviews. Would you like to talk? And so I was thrilled.
Oh,
I was
good.
absolutely thrilled.
I am, thank you so much. I mean, really, I really
Uh,
like hearing your thoughts and
yeah,
talking about it.
well,
And
I couldn't even begin um to like get them all on paper here, but these are I want to segue into our end matter. Well, first I will say this is not a debut. You have written before, and I need to go into your backlist. The Brambles, is that the name of, is
yeah,
there one other or two?
there's my first one was called The Tiny One, and the
Okay.
second one is The Brambles. Yeah.
Okay. I need to look for those. Is the tiny one about
The
babies?
Tiny One is actually about it's not, again, this is sort of like a exercise in trying to remember, but
Yep.
it's not really me. It's,
Yep.
my mother died when I was 7 years old.
Oh my goodness. So
I know. So coming
so there
full
is some
circle.
auto fiction here.
Yeah, in a way, differently. She died in an accident. I'm in one of seven, big family, totally different than Maisie's little upbringing.
But still,
Um, yes. And so that book, the tiny one, is sort of the day in the life, the day the child finds out the mother's dead, but really it's a looking back, like remembering the mom, like
oh
in
my.
scenarios kind of. Yeah. So, and even that, it's like, is it my mother? Yes. I mean, like parts of it are
Right.
recognizable, but it's not, it's the vibe to
Yep.
capture.
I understand that.
And then the more I wrote, the less it was her, my fan, whatever. But yeah, it's sort of almost, I mean, it's a funny bookend to this book for
Right.
sure. Not funny,
So are
haha,
you
but
right? You going to step into something again? I know this is pretty recent, but are you
yeah,
writing again?
yes,
Okay,
yeah.
good. I'm thrilled.
Yeah,
And you
no,
don't
I feel
have to, I
like
know that's a
this
taboo.
is like the beginning of my return to being a
Yeah.
writer again,
Some
Like,
authors love to say, yes, I am, and this is it, or some, like it's like, I don't want to jinx myself, but that's great. I'm
yeah.
thrilled and I can't wait to see. I definitely, but at least I have a couple books to look back on. Um, I love to ask if you're willing to share
Hmm.
some books, authors that you as a reader love to recommend that are your, go-to books or something, anything. It can be anything.
Well, since I'm thinking of this book, uh, I don't know why I'm thinking of, well, okay, I'm thinking more of the books that I was reading or that kind of helped go towards this book.
Right.
One of
I love
them
that.
is Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, which is sort of appears in this book a little bit. I mean, with that strange, odd conversation with
I have
the
never read
older
that, but I
woman.
should.
Oh, it's worth it. That and Bell Hook's All About Love, I kind of had nearby when I was writing this book. Not like for reference, but I just
Right.
mean, they just were kind of always near. And
Right.
they're two books that I like a lot. Those are both nonfiction,
Yes.
obviously. But since we were talking about sort of mom books, which again, there's something about, like, I had a couple people say, I almost wish that this wasn't so much like about motherhood after they'd read it, because it's almost like estranges some people from wanting to read it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I can
But
see that.
I can see that too, but maybe one day that won't be the
Every
case
book
with
is
all
about
of these books.
something.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like,
What was I? Okay, Jenny Offal's Department of Speculation,
mhm.
Rachel Cusk, that whole outline series, but A Life's Work, which is about being a new mom-ish, A Life's Work
Yeah.
was. Um, these are just books, not that I read and thought, I want to write books like these, but as I started to write more about the baby stuff, I was
Right.
thinking of them like that,
Right.
Um, Helen Simpson, who's just a short story writer,
Okay.
Getting a Life, which is probably, it's 20 years old at least now, but it's still, that was one of those. It's just, it's, domestic, but literary.
Right.
It has that weight to it.
Okay.
Lydia Davis too. There's like a short in her short stories. It's like things I learned from the baby, or these were just all babyish stuff, not
Right.
baby, but mom things.
Yep.
But then in general, like some old favorites. I don't know
It's
why I'm thinking of this, but Mrs. Bridge, Evan S.
okay.
Connell.
Wow.
And
You are coming up with some ones that I think I'm well read, and I think I know about half of these
well,
books.
I've only, because I'm so bad at this question, I finally wrote them down. That's why
Yeah.
I'm rattling them off,
Yeah.
because there
No,
were like,
no, it's
every time I'd be sitting here like,
I think it's fascinating
um,
to learn like what, yeah, well, when I reach out and organize these things with authors, I do ask, do you want the questions ahead of time? Most people say no. But I say, I will let you know that I am going to ask you this because, yeah, I mean, being put on the spot about something like that, you're like, look back at your bookshelf. So,
yeah. Well, it's
yeah.
also like, it's like, what's your favorite movie? Unless you really,
Oh,
it's hard, or what's your
yeah,
favorite color? It like all depends.
yeah.
But I do
Being put
know,
on the spot
yeah.
is hard.
And books are like, I don't know, it's like your favorite, they just change,
Yes.
they
Oh,
meet you at different times for sure.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And there are books. I'm not a huge rereader, but I already reread a lot of this yesterday as I was preparing for this and writing out questions. And like I said, I answered some of my own questions, or I came upon things that I was like, well, wow, that line, I did not remember that line. And I probably would have, the line that we keep talking about would have breezed over it until the end. And then it makes sense. And so yeah, there is value to rereading is my point.
I don't know
So,
why I'm thinking of this, but the other woman, there's like, she has a flashback right before she starts to bleed and stuff of a
mhm,
woman
mhm.
who they met the previous year who had sprained her ankle.
Right,
And then ATV come, like Neil and the husband get a thing. And it's only occurring to me right now that I
right,
did think that if that could have happened,
right,
they have that to help her. Do
right,
you know what I mean? If
right.
she's
They could get
bleeding and possibly dying, it's not like
right.
she's in the middle. Oh my God, how
Yeah,
do we
she
get
talks
out of
about
here?
losing her leg, and the little
Yeah,
girl goes, "Were you in an accident?" And then she's like,
right,
"What'd you
exactly.
do with the
Yes,
leg? We buried the leg." Yes,
right, right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, it's very the last I don't know 20 pages are out of body. And I thought, like, is the woman on the hayride? Do you know that? Was she already going under? Like, or was that woman real? Or do you know?
Yeah, no,
You know,
many, I mean, again, I don't have a
there's not an
specific
answer.
intention,
Yeah.
but
Because
I'm glad that people are wondering that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like that
yeah, I certainly
that
am
it
because
seems witchy and weird enough that maybe this isn't even real, but that it
right.
also could be.
Yep. There's definitely room there for it to be open ended. And I think it's wild that like you wrote it really well because I guess one way you could read it one way and one way you could read it another. But um, either way, there's so much to think about. Thank you for giving like just validating what I mean, I don't think I would want to give this to my daughter who's about to have a baby. So we all know like the first, but it's just bringing back memories and in a swell of emotions. Like I said, honestly, never experienced anything like this. This is out now. There we go. If I hold it like this,
Yeah, it looks good.
before I've blurred my background, which is kind of good, but it's weird with the way you can see, but the cover is absolutely beautiful. It's an orchard and this is a baby blanket with a baby on it. And it's Knopf and Eliza. Thank you so much for taking the time with me.
Thank you, Deb. Really, my pleasure. Thank you for doing this.
I will let you go forth and finish your day and walk your dogs and all the
That's
good
right. That's
things.
what we'll do. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.